You should do a fact thing in your normal voice. Well, I'm getting this a lot at the minute, so yeah, certainly. Let's hear the tale of the Yorkshire Witch.
Did you know that Mary Hawker was born in North Yorkshire in 1768? She had a normal childhood, but soon developed a love of stealing. Mary would marry an honest man named John Bateman, but because of her love of stealing, they had to keep moving houses to avoid prosecution, and Mary struggled to get a normal job. Mary eventually got a job as a seamstress after moving to Leeds. She took on some part-time work as a witch. Mary would tell fortunes, brew potions, and remove bad wishes from clients. Mary also began to pretend to be the go-between for a psychic called Miss Blythe. Now, she was a psychic who could read the stars, but Mrs. Blythe was actually a product of Mary's imagination. Before long, clients were flocking to the home of Mary, hoping to find out what their future may hold. Mary became very wealthy off this imaginary sorceress, selling magic potions and charms that she said could ward off evil, repel curses, and even cure illness. But this wasn't enough for Mary. Mary soon befriended 3 women from the family kitchen. She helped out in their drapery shop and told their fortunes, which she passed down from Miss Blythe. For a fee, of course. Before long, one of the women fell ill from an unknown cause. Now, Mary decided to nurse her back to health with some special powders she prepared herself. Soon, all 3 women were dead. Now, Mary blamed the deaths on the plague, and fearful of infection, the locals did nothing. But when the creditors looked into the kitchen estate, they found the shop and the house had been stripped bare, and the account books had been taken. But nobody thought to blame Mary. After this, Mary moved on to her next deception, apocalyptic prophecy. Mary soon began spreading the story of the prophet hen of Leeds. Now, she claimed to be the owner of a chicken which laid eggs inscribed with the words, "Christ is coming." People flocked to Mary for ask for protection, and for the price of a penny, she promised they would be spared from the coming end times. The truth about that hen was that Mary had actually inscribed the words herself. She would use vinegar, which would etch the shells. She would then pop them back up into the chickens, where they would be freshly laid. A local doctor spied on Mary and discovered what she was doing. However, she was never punished. Mary continued to seek out ill and anxious people and promised that she had the magical cure to their problems. Now, she was seemingly kind and supposedly well-connected, so it was very rare that Mary didn't have customers. In the spring of 1806, stories of the kind and talented Mary had spread to Bromley and a couple called Rebecca and William Perigo. Rebecca suffered from a nervous disorder she was told was the result of an evil wish. Now, she turned to Mary for help, and Mary graciously said she would turn the case over to Miss Blythe. Mary claimed that Miss Blythe told them to sew silk pouches to the corner of Rebecca's bed and fill them with guinea notes and coins, and they should remain untouched for 18 months. Mary and Miss Blythe continued to work Rebecca's case, demanding money for magical supplies, china, silver, and even a new bed. With every demand, the Perigos handed over cash and possessions and burnt every letter from Miss Blythe at her request, as she said that evil spirits would try and read the contents. The Perigos had given Miss Blythe a small fortune when they received a chilling note from the psychic that warned of a mystery illness that will affect one or both of them. Miss Blythe said she could help, and Mary supplied them with special powders to sprinkle on their desserts that should be eaten with a special pot of honey and only consumed by the Perigos. Mary also said that they should not contact a doctor, as this would make the supernatural illness even worse. Now, the obedient Perigos were like lambs to the slaughter. They had no idea that Mary had been lacing their food with poison, and both of them fell almost immediately ill. Soon after, Rebecca Perigo died, but William did not. Now, he was devastated, but for a further 2 years continued to rely on potions supplied by Miss Blythe. He even continued to give her more money and even some of his dead wife's clothes. As the years went by, William started to doubt Miss Blythe, so he decided to look in the silk bags around Rebecca's bed containing the money the Perigos had put there. Inside was just waste paper and scrap metal. William finally realised he had been duped. He went to Mary's to confront her, and she said it was because he had opened the bags too early, to which William replied, "I think it's too late." The next day, William turned up to Mary's house with a constable who arrested her and then searched her house. The search unearthed the Perigos goods, which were supposed to be for Miss Blythe. They also found a bottle containing rum, oatmeal, and arsenic. Also, the Perigos honey was analysed and it was found to contain mercury. Mary was charged with murder. During Mary's trial, people came from all over Leeds to tell stories of extortion at the hands of Mary. It became apparent that the scope of her crimes were far broader than first expected. Suddenly, the death of the Kitchen family years earlier took on a much more sinister look, and it was quickly apparent that there was no Miss Blythe. The judge in Mary's case said she had a tongue in her mouth that could wheedle the devil. He also said there wasn't a particle of doubt that she was guilty, and then proclaimed, "For crimes like yours, the gates of mercy are closed." Knowing the death penalty was imminent, Mary claimed she was pregnant, which if true could stop the execution. Upon examination, no proof was found, and Mary was sentenced to death. Mary continued to protest her innocence and even continued her business from behind a condemned prison cell by making charms for other female inmates. On March 20th, 1809, Mary faced the hangman. Thousands turned out to see the last moments of the Yorkshire Witch, and until her final breath, she denied the charges. After Mary was hanged, her body was taken to the infirmary where the public could pay 3p to view her remains, and after a dissection you could actually buy a piece of Mary's dried out skin as a magical souvenir. In fact, Mary's skin was actually used to bind several books, one of which was owned by King George IV. Mary's skeleton is now in storage at Leeds University, but it was on display for over 2 centuries as a reminder of one of the most cunning murderers the north of England has ever known.
Oh, thank God, that guy's gone. He's so boring. You should have heard me tell that story. It's fantastic. But don't worry, I won't be doing that very often because I don't like doing it.